Tabada marnin to ya. Hello everyone, Connor Whitmore here again with another video for you on the Nawtystep channel. And it's time for another Extra Nawties monthly roundup. Gonna go over some EPs, albums, and compilations I wasn't able to review in full, but which I still thought interesting enough to share my opinions on them with you. Shorter reviews because there's a lot to get through. I'm gonna be identifying my main points with each one, and hopefully showing you a couple things you hadn't heard of before, covering the very end of January and up to and including Feb 26. And they are covered in alphabetical order by way of artist or record label name, and are all linked in the description box down below. Lastly, there will be a list of extra or special mentions at the end of the video that I couldn't talk about here because then there would just be too many, but I definitely recommend checking them out as well. And so, kicking off this installment, we have the new EP from Alert, Energy Volume 1. Been following Alert for the last year or so and haven't been wowed as of yet, and for the most part this EP does just add to that feeling. He loves to revert to that bouncy speed house when other genres aren't working, which happens multiple times here. All of that speed house sounding pretty much exactly the same. If you strip that away, it's a load of experimentation that doesn't quite work. So not that inspired, but that being said, I do enjoy parts of Revolution, and the final track, Blood, is an interesting concept. New compilation from Bass Rush. They go down the experimental, freeform, and dubstep route here, and I have to say the results are quite mixed. Mostly a bit meek, a bit meh, but a couple of really solid tunes in there to bring the overall quality up a bit. Shanghai Doom is chunky as fuck. Also liking the Aberration, Frequency, UFO Project. The others are varying levels of okay. New Bucky album, a Future Garage exhibition. A couple of other genres dropped in, but if you like Future Garage, Your Burial, Vacant, and more, must listen right here. One of the very best in the genre at the moment. Could have maybe done with a bit of trimming, a lot of tunes here, but the way that deep, solemn feeling is maintained throughout is quite amazing, I think. Not as subtle as other kinds of Future Garage. I think it leaves a mark in different ways, but so much to get out of it. Now, if you followed my roundups over the last year or so, you'll know I've preferred Basic's older stuff a bit more than his more recent stuff, but this EP changes that. His stodgy, muddy production is still there in parts, but I think this time it's swamped out by the more spontaneous delivery that I think he's best for. Track 2, Death Sonata, for example, I think is great for that. So animated, refined, sharp, unpredictable. One of my favourites of the year so far. Just him going the extra mile with his ideas when I think in the past he's sold himself short a bit, the recent past anyway. This for me though is pure Basic flavour, and as close to him in full flow as we've seen in a while. Next up, Delta Heavy Remixes, and as predicted, with 24 of them, a fair few duds here, some I'm indifferent about, and some I find really good. My picks come from Prolix, Anix, Magnitude, and Clockvice at points, but beyond that, a lot of very ordinary material. More variety needed, I think, beyond the D&B. After that, new Dr. Fresh album compilation thing here. Some really bland stuff here, my word. Unbelievably so. You're like, how were they happy with how that turned out? Both idea and execution. A lot of not bad stuff here as well, and luckily some very tasty tunes on hand to rescue it. The Fetish one I like, and the Alec Benici one has to be my pick. I love the aggression of that one. Yeah, really good. But overwhelming feeling is a load of tunes working to a deadline, bereft of inspiration and care in production. This EP is good. Some percussion really lacking stops it from being great as a collection. Yeah. A lot of it is really jarring and could have done with being a bit more subtle at points, but lest that take away from the good we get here. Think Peekaboo but more hyped, more savage. It does fall short at points, as I mentioned, but very excited for their future. I feel like I'm hearing the same kind of song over and over here. Am I right? I feel like I have to check with you because I don't want to be hearing it wrong, but yeah, that is how I've heard it. The problem, of course, with hard trap and hard style is that They're so identifiable by their beat and by particular synths used that it's hard to be that inventive with them, but this takes it to another level in a bad way. Too much and quite a difficult listen, I can't lie. New Guillotine EP, for me, less memorable on the ideas front, but his sound feels more rounded and defined on the whole, so in turn, more emphatic. Percussion aside, with a few of these drops, I think he has the statement-making factor on point, again, second half more so than the first here, which just adds another layer to his music, I think. The stop-start approach we get throughout, I think, works really well. Also, a lot of interesting sounds on display as well, so making itself known in a new way for him, in my opinion. Convulsion would have to be my favourite. Herobust remixes aren't bad, a classic remix compilation really, with a couple of highlights but a lot of wide of the mark stuff really. Favourites come from Herobust himself and Ivory. Couple of sparks in the Carbon and Black Sheep, but beyond that, not great. The percussion is a big problem across the whole thing. Another EP from IO, what can I say? More big room techno flavour from him. Becoming a reliable producer for many, myself included. Nothing here that's up there with my favourites of his, but very, very solid again. Another collection embellishing how consistent he is as a producer. The dark vibe and energy of it, quite difficult to tear yourself away from. I just have to see him live at some point. I am eagerly awaiting that day. More brilliant quirkiness from Jay Smek, one of the most creative producers in EDM at the moment, and he proves it again here. Title track being my pick, most together. The other two not quite as concise and refined, but still a very fun, off-the-wall and individualistic EP overall. Once again, just okay from Liquid Stranger. A little better than what I've heard before from him, but once more, just don't get the massive hype. Most of Ascension has the element of story on point, but the drops either do nothing with good production or the production is off and it's a great idea. The opener though, Psychonaut, is bloody good. Well built, well produced, nifty ideas, vocal samples. Why can't the rest be like that? New album from Little Snake, who some of you will remember from my top EPs video from last year, and more of the same here. Music from another dimension. Like Sophie, but no vocals, less structure, more glitchy, industrial, dystopian. The most insane, mind-blowing music I've heard in electronic music, generally overall, in a long, long time. The cleanliness of the production I haven't heard elsewhere either. Just plunges you right into its world, and I think beyond that, quite hard to put into words really, just a bit mad. A 4-track album, which I think just says it all. One for locking in for just over half an hour and getting lost in it. Yeah, massive recommend. I will leave it to you and say no more. Moody good remixes. Yeah, not big on any of these overall really. No one tune I feel compelled to go back to here again and again. Biggest letdown for me has to be Kill the Noise, who I think has fallen into the overly heavy rhythmy hole. Different from him, but doesn't really work. Generally interesting approaches here, but doesn't mean I want to listen to the ideas all that much. Now, many will know why I might just be saying this, but honestly, this is definitely the best EP of Murders I've heard yet. It just feels way more inventive, less predictable. The drops droning on less, the production is fresher, and it takes steps that he hasn't done before, I think. Morse Code is probably, or possibly, my favourite tune from his outright ever. The force of it, the jumpiness of it. We even get House here on Cockney Cartel. Murder. House. Basically, none of them drag, which has been the main problem, I think, with his music before. Far sharper and livelier than most of his recent material, if not all of it. More of the same, please and thank you. After that, Invaders, who I've been following for a short while now, watching the steady progress and whatnot, and this EP is a good summation of his style. Pretty explosive dubstep, trap, hybrid music, hard-hitting, gnarly, sharp ideas, not madly tight with how it's cut, and production could do with a bit of beefing up at points, but he will improve with those things over time, you feel. Big future ahead, and one of the best up-and-comers in bass music, at the moment, no doubt. These Oolacile remixes are good. Some of the best we'll hear all year, I think. There are parts and aspects of every one that I enjoy, which is quite rare. I usually find a couple I don't like at all on a remix comp, but I can appreciate each one here, at least to some degree. Do have my favourites, of course. The Clockvice and Vorso and Mr. Bill, I think, have the best ideas, but the Achios and Jub is my favourite for the percussion alone. New EP from Proxima. In terms of focusing on the synth and sample aspect of it, one of the most effective D&B EPs I've heard in quite a while. Very lively, deep sound, intimate, keeps you guessing. Not amazing ideas, but the delivery isn't predictable at any point. Not as much emphasis on percussion as usual. Refreshing for the genre, I think, as a result. Because of that, spatially aware and a range of D&B styles on show as well. So really, quite accomplished overall. New STUCA EP, not bad. Mostly a collection where I can see what he's trying to do, but the execution isn't quite there. For example, in the heaviest parts of the final three, the production feels overblown, scratchy to abrasive and not that clean. Steam and Pain in particular don't have the ingenuity to lift them up either. Piston at the beginning is decent, but so short. Why? The structures are quite simple throughout as well. Shout out to Fuck Off though, good drop ideas and some of the best sampling I've heard in a long, long time. Listen, 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 fuck off, fuck off, fuck off, fuck off. Decent. More very interesting music from Sub Yao, somewhere in between industrial, experimental, tribal, glitch, once again. Not a lot in the way of memorable ideas to cling onto, more like a collage of sound than anything earwormy. Some output, I think, would be the closest to that, but if something grisly and a bit more abstract sounds appealing to you, definitely check it out. New Tripsy Leary album. Got into his music last year or so, not been massive on it so far, a fair share of weak material here, but some great stuff as well. Cuts like Neurons, Cybernet, where the sounds work together mostly really well, got a direction to them as well. The general warmth of his extraterrestrial design is really felt, but a lot of it is the kind of freeform experimental bass that just doesn't fit the sounds together all that well, and yeah, is a bit boring. Yeah, a lot of it falls into that trap. Using sounds seemingly for the sake of it, no gelling, and some awful, awful snares. Definitely more good than I expected, but really unrealised potential here. New EP from Vorso, yet to get the huge hype surrounding him. Always appreciated his music, just in a few ways here and there. And yeah, same thing with this EP. Someone who's always had good ideas but never pushed them quite far enough to make them exceptional, if you know what I mean. And with this EP, it's the same thing. As with past stuff from him, I can appreciate it sonically, the design is masterful, the structures are well crafted. I love the way his music swells and contracts, but not a lot on the ideas front, making me want to go back to it again and again. The bottom line with his music once more. And finally, the new Yellowclaw album. I found the first two from them very average considering how big they're meant to be as a duo. A little bit better here, but not that much. Some fantastic melodies and vocals on show, but many instrumentals fundamentally flawed here. Either the idea or the execution, with pretty much all of them, is a bit meh. They get the catchy, infectious vibe on point, but beyond that, pretty everyday as a body of work. Doesn't really push many boundaries. Yeah, a lot of it is just okay party music. Shout out to the tune Reckless though, with Fat Man Scoop, one of my favourites of the year so far. A fat slapper. But there we have it, the Feb 2020 edition of the monthly Extra Nawties Roundup. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed. These are the special mentions from last month, absolutely loads of them. Yeah, going to put them up on the screen here for you all to see. Yep, have a little pause if you want to note them down, take a screenshot, whatever. They won't be in the description. Going to leave it up a little bit longer than usual because there are so many. Yeah, but regarding the EPs, albums, compilations reviewed in this video, which ones did you enjoy, which others not so much? Are there any that I missed out? let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to give it a big old thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell along the way so you can be notified whenever I upload a new video to the channel. My social media accounts are linked in the description box down below, and if you want to find another monthly roundup on the channel, some more dark electronic tunage for ya, I will link it right here. And lastly, if it's naughty, then you know guys, so be sure as always to keep it naughty and stay safe, and I shall see all of you legends in the next one. Extra Nawties monthly roundup Feb 2020, dark electronic music. Peace out.